Hello friends, welcome back. This video we'll be discussing some more advanced level critical listening questions that are generally useful for you in cracking the reading comprehension section of CAT and other management entrance examinations. Since CAT 2024 is getting nearer, I thought that we will focus more on the logical skills part for the ERC rather than the reading comprehension part, because now the remaining time it is not possible for you to improve your reading comprehension beyond a point, whereas the logical skills, yes, definitely you can improve and fine tune, so that it will help you in finding the correct answers in your reading comprehension questions. So we'll discuss some high level critical listening questions. So in order to fine tune your skills. So as always, the exercise in PDF format is provided in the video description, or the link to the video is provided in the video description. So please click on the link and attempt the exercise first, and then come and watch the video. Only then you will be able to understand the nuances and the techniques that we have employed. If you directly watch the video, you might be missing certain points. So that is why I always insist on you doing the exercise first and then watching the video. Right. We will start with the questions. So the first question, what is the first question? The first question is talking about a decision taken by the management of a multiplex chain, which is Megaplex. And what is the decision? Decision is to revert back to frying their popcorn in coconut oil. So they had experimented with frying the popcorn in sunflower oil in 2011, because coconut oil was considered unhealthy. But the management has decided, after 1 year, management has decided to go back to coconut oil, because what is the argument made by the management? The popcorn sales has come down because of sunflower oil. That is the argument. Now, what is the theater goer saying? Theater goer is the person who is going to the theater to watch the movies. He says that the argument of the theater management is wrong. Why he is saying that it is wrong? Because he says that as per their own sales figures, the sales of popcorn has increased by 5% in 2011 than in the previous year. So this is the crux of the theater goers argument. So theater goer is saying that the decision by the theater management is incorrect, because the sales of popcorn in 2011 has increased by 5% than the previous year. So what is your question? Your question is to find a statement that weakens the theater goers argument. So you have two arguments here. One is the theater management's argument. Second is the theater goers argument. Theater management says that popcorn sales have come down. Theater goer says that no, popcorn sales have gone up. So how can you weaken the theater goers argument? Any argument can be weakened if you address the crux of the argument. So if you can find a statement which proves that the popcorn sales have not increased in 2011 when compared to the previous year, that will be the statement that weakens the theater goers argument. So again, I'm telling you, the theater goers argument can be weakened by a statement that proves that the popcorn sales have not increased in 2011 when compared to the previous year. So once you understand that, the answer becomes very simple. But we will go through the options one by one for the sake of discussion. Option A, total sales of all refreshments at Mega Plus movie theaters increased by less than 5% in 2011. So it says that in the year 2011, all the other refreshments increased by less than 5%, whereas popcorn sales increased by more than 5%. So it would appear that it is supporting the theater goers argument, saying that it has increased. So any statement that supports the theater goers argument will not be a good argument for us. And one more thing you have to understand is, we don't know the relation between the sales of all refreshments and popcorn. So if the passage is saying that a particular percentage of all refreshments sold at Megaplex is popcorn, then maybe we can do the comparison. But without knowing the that percentage or data regarding other refreshments, we cannot make a connection between sale of other refreshments with sale of popcorn. So in either case, this statement is not going to weaken the theater goers argument. So this is not your answer. Option B, Megaplex makes more money on food and beverages sold in theater than it does on sale of movie tickets. It is an irrelevant option. We are not concerned with how Megaplex is making money, whether it is through sale of tickets or through sale of food and beverages. It is not at all relevant to us. Not your answer. Option C, Megaplex customers prefer the taste of popcorn popped in coconut oil than that of popcorn popped in sunflower oil. So this is a statement that supports the theater management's argument, because theater management is saying that when we fry popcorn in sunflower oil, sale has come down. So customers prefer the taste of popcorn in coconut oil than in sunflower oil. So we, since it is supporting the theater management's argument, it would appear that it will weaken the theater goers argument, because any statement that supports the theater management argument should be weakening the theater goers argument. But here the problem is that this statement is supporting the theater management's argument, but it is not weakening the theater goers argument, because you have to see the crux of the theater goers argument. The theater goers argument is talking about the sale increasing by 5% in 2011 when compared to the previous year. So this statement is not at all addressing that issue. So as long as that issue is not addressed, or that argument is not addressed, it will not weaken the theater goers argument. So this is not a good answer for us. Option D, total attendance at Megaplus movie theaters was more than 20% higher in 2011 than the year before. Here again, we are talking about the attendance. So as long as we don't have any data regarding the relationship between attendance and popcorn sales, if so much percentage of people attending movies are eating popcorns or something like that, we cannot make any assumptions or conclusions based on this. So we can directly ignore this, because there is no relationship between attendance and popcorn sales. Option E, in 2010, Megaplex experienced a 10% increase in popcorn sales over the previous year. What it means? In 2010, the increase in popcorn sales was 10%, whereas in 2011, it is only 5%. So what is the essential meaning? The sale has actually come down, because when the increase is not keeping up, it means that the sale is coming down, because the sale is always compared over the previous year. So when in 2010 there was a 10% increase compared to 2009, and in 2011 there was only a 5% increase compared to 2010, it means that the sale has the net sale has decreased, or the popcorn sale has actually come down. So this option is directly attacking the crux of the argument made by the theater goer, who says that the popcorn sale has increased by 5%. This option says that no, popcorn sales has actually in fact decreased when compared with the previous year. So that is why it weakens the theater goers argument. So this is our answer. So option E will be our answer. I hope this is clear to you. Now go to the second question. So the second question is talking about or arguing that private companies or private enterprises should be entrusted with the task of managing the national parks. National parks means the zoos, the museums, those kind of things where wild animals are roaming free. So big areas of natural habitats where wild animals live in their natural surroundings. So it is called a national park system. So here the passage is saying that private enterprises should be right now government is managing the national park system. So passage argues that some people are in favor of giving this control of the national parks to private enterprises because they will be able to do the conservation efforts better than government. So it will be better served. Conservation objectives will be better served if private environmental groups are put in charge of operating and financing the national park system, which is now run by the government. So essentially, the argument is that government should stay away from managing the national parks. It should be entrusted with private environmental groups, because conservation of natural resources would be best served or best executed by private environmental groups. Now, our question is to find a argument that supports or weakens the suggestion above. So you have to find a statement that weakens or argues strongly against the suggestion. Means you have to find a statement that argues that no, government should continue to run the national park system. Private enterprises should not be allowed to manage the national park. So we will examine the options one by one. Option A, those who seek to abolish all restrictions on exploiting the natural resources of the parks might join the private enterprises as members and eventually take over the leadership. What is the meaning? There will be people who want to exploit the natural resources without any control. So people who want to abolish all restrictions on exploiting the natural resources means there might be some vested interests who want to exploit all the natural resources without any control. They will take over the private environmental groups and they will manage the private environmental groups. So what once the national parks are managed by private environmental groups, what will happen? These vested interests will take over the control and they will start exploiting the natural resources. So instead of conserving, the exploitation of natural resources would be happening. This is a very good argument against the suggestion. So the likely answer for us, keep it in our mind. Option B, private environmental groups might not always agree on the best ways to achieve conservation objectives. Yes, means what? There might be differences of opinion between the private environmental groups on how to conserve the natural resources. True. So if there are differences of opinion, then the conservation efforts may not be fully implemented. So this again is weakening the argument. Option C, likely answer. Option C, if they wish to extend the park system, the private environmental groups might have to seek contributions from major donors. Means this option says that the private environmental groups will have problems in funding. So there might not be adequate resources. They will find it difficult to find the money required for conservation efforts. Again, argument against the private enterprises. So this is also a possible answer. Option D, there might be competition among private environmental groups for control of certain park areas. Again, what it says that there will be competition among the private environmental groups. If there is competition, that is a good thing, right? So will it be weakening the argument? Not really, because if a competition means there will be, it will be good for the management of the groups, because the group which manages the parks better will always be getting preferences in controlling certain park areas. So this is again actually supporting. So not our answer, because we need a statement that weakens the suggestion. Option E, some endangered species such as the California condor might die out despite the best efforts of private environmental groups, even if those stocks are not hampered by insufficient resources. Means even if there is adequate money for preservation and protection, some species might definitely die out. So this might happen even in the case of government control also. So even if private enterprises or government is managing the national park, some species are bound to die out. So because despite the best efforts of the environmental group, so they have money, they are doing the effort, still some species will die. So this will happen even if government is having the control. So this is not going to weaken the argument, because this option or this possibility is always there even if government is controlling the national parks. So we can exclude D and E. So what remains is A, B, C. So how do we find the best answer? Something that argues most strongly. See, in the case of options B and C, it only says that there might be some problems in conservation, because B says that there will be differences of opinion regarding how to do the conservation. C says that because of funding, there might be some issues with conservation. But what A is saying? A is saying that instead of conservation, what will happen? Exploitation will happen. So here in option A, the opposite of what is actually the objective will happen, because the objective is to aid the conservation objective. So if the objective is to help in conservation of natural resources, whereas in the case of option A, instead of conservation, exploitation of natural resources will happen. Whereas in the case of B and C, that exploitation is not there. There might be some problems or roadblocks in conservation. So that is why even though all the three statements are arguing against private enterprises doing the conservation, option B is our best answer, because in this case the exploitation will happen, whereas in the cases of B and C, exploitation is not going to happen. So we can ignore B and C. Option A will be our answer. Again, careful reading, careful analysis will help you in understanding the passage first, and then once you understand the passage first and the question next, then you can easily arrive at the answer. All right. Question number three. Question number three is talking about a hypothesis, and then that hypothesis is proven wrong. What is the hypothesis? The hypothesis is that in industrialized nations, from last century to this century, there was a significant shortening of the workday. Means the period people used to work has decreased from 12 hours to less than 8 hours, and this leisure time has increased for the people from the last century to this century. So, and assuming this as a trend, the hypothesis is that people in prehistoric times or people in earlier centuries and all, they used to work longer because from last century to this century, there were due to industrialization, there was a significant shortening of the working hours per day. So that means that if you go back century by century in history, people might have worked longer, very longer hours. That is the hypothesis. And in the second paragraph, that hypothesis is proven wrong. It says that we cannot directly test this assumption. Means the people have been working incessantly for their very survival for longer hours throughout history. So therefore, prehistoric humans must have worked incessantly for very survival. This theory cannot be tested directly because we don't know, we don't have any means to go back in time and check how much longer people used to work in prehistoric times. But there is a method. What is that method? There are certain tribes which are still primitive, means which are not touched by modernization or industrialization. And even in those prehistoric tribes, the leisure time is more. Means the people are not spending too much time working. They are spending only around few hours each day hunting, gathering, tendering, etc. And the rest of the time they are spending as they choose. So this is the counter hypothesis. So what is the implication of this counter hypothesis? Implication is that the short work days are not necessarily a feature of industrialized societies. Even prehistoric societies used to have shorter work days. So this is the crux of the argument in the passage. So passage is first saying that shorter work days are a feature of industrialization. Then that is proven wrong by talking about the Imbuti tribe of Central Africa, and it says that shorter work days are also a feature of prehistoric tribes or primitive tribes. It is not essentially a feature of industrialized societies. And it says further says that the extended workday of 1880 means in the 1800s the workday was longer, and the shorter workday of today are products of different stages of continuing process of industrialization. Means as we go on with the different stages of industrialization, this shorter workday, the workday becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. This is the meaning. So two essential arguments are stated in the passage. One is the main argument is that the shorter workdays are not exclusively a feature of industrialized societies. Even primitive societies used to have shorter workdays. Second thing is that the shorter workdays of today are a product of the ongoing process of industrial different stages during different stages of industrialization. The work days gradually got shortened. This is the second theory. Now, what is the question? We have what is the inference we can find about industrialization, which is supported by the passage. What is an inference? Any statement or any unstated idea that we can directly extract from whatever facts are given here is an inference. So inference is nothing but an understanding that you can get from the facts that are provided to us. So you have to minutely go through the statements and find which is the best inference. Option A, people in advanced industrial societies have more leisure time than those in non-industrial society. Very clearly wrong. So you can directly ignore it because the passage itself is saying that shorter workdays is not peculiar to industrialized societies. So all non-industrial societies also had shorter workdays, whereas option says that people in industrial societies have more leisure time than those in non-industrialized societies. So clearly wrong. You can ignore it. Option B, an average workday of 12 hours or more is peculiar to economies in the early stages of industrialization. Uh, Uh, Correct, because an average workday of 12 hours. So it says that in the 1800s and all, workdays were 12 hours or longer, and now it has become 8 hours. And the next part is saying that both the extended workday of 1800s and the shorter workday of are products at different stages of a continuing process of industrialization. So average workday 12 hours more is more peculiar to economies in the early stages of industrialization. Correct. So let us assume this as a correct statement. Probable answer, keep it in your mind. Option C, industrialization involves a trade-off between tedious monotonous jobs and the benefit. What is the trade-off? An exchange. So it says that in industrialization, what is happening? Tedious monotonous jobs are exchanged for more leisure time. So is this a good inference? It's not a good inference because we don't know whether only the tedious and monotonous jobs are removed through industrialization, as a result of which more leisure time is available to us. The passage does not mention anywhere that the continued or the repetitive jobs are replaced by industrialization, as a result of which people are getting more leisure time. No, this is not stated in the passage. So this is not a good inference. A good inference, I have already stated, it should be supported by the facts given in the passage. So this is not a good inference. Option D, it is likely that the extended workday of an industrializing country will eventually be shortened. True, because it says that when the continuing process of industrialization, what happens? The work days become shorter and shorter and shorter. So that is why an industrializing country means a country that is in the process of industrialization. So again, continuing process of industrialization. So where a country that is in the process of industrialization, extended workday will eventually be shortened, because when industrialization starts, the workdays will be longer, but as the industrialization progresses, workdays will get shortened. Good answer again. Option E, the industrialization progresses, people can look for self-fulfillment in leisure rather than work. It says that people are looking for satisfaction in leisure rather than work. So it is talking about what people are looking for. The passage is not saying anywhere what people are looking for, or whether people are looking for satisfaction rather than working due to industrialization. This is not stated. So the motive of the people, whether it is self-fulfillment in leisure or work, it is not stated in the passage. Wrong. So you have two answers here. An average workday 12 hours or more is peculiar to economies in the early stages. And option D, it is likely that the extended workday of an industrializing country will eventually be shortened. Now, how to select the best answer or the best inference? See, it should be supported by the passage in every which way. So here again, close reading. The average workday of 12 hours is more peculiar to economies in the early stages of industrialization. See, the passage does not say that this 12-hour workdays in the last century was the early stage of industrialization. It says that industrialization witnessed a shortening of the average workday 12 hours to less than 8 hours. So whether at this stage was the early stage, we don't know. So here again, rather both the extended workday of 1880 and the shorter workday of today are products of different stages of the continuing process of industrialization. So extended workday of 1800s, whether this was an early stage, we don't know. Maybe the industrialization started before 1800s. We don't know. This is not given to us in the passage. So as a result of which, we cannot say that the 12-hour workday is the feature of early stage. Maybe in the early stage of industrialization, it was more. Maybe 15 hours or 20 hours. We don't know. Or it was less. That also we don't know. So we only know that as the industrialization progresses, the work days will eventually be shortened. We only know that. So we cannot say that the work days are 12 hours or more is a feature of the early stage of industrialization. So this early stage is a problem. So if this early stage had not been there, this would have been a good answer. So this is why we can remove this one. And this is definitely a correct answer, because the extended workday of an industrializing country is very clearly, it is given in the last sentence. The extended workday of 1800 and the shorter workday of products of different stages of the continuous process of industrialization. So an industrializing country means a country that is in the continuing process of industrialization. There the extended workday will definitely get shortened. So option B is the clear and correct answer. So this is the best inference we can make from the passage. All right, question number 4. Again, the same passage, so you don't have to worry with the by reading. That is why in the exercise I have reduced the time to 8 minutes. Normally, for 5 questions, I give 10 minutes, but this in this exercise only 8 minutes will be provided to you because the passage is repetitive. This is a second question based on the same passage, so we only need to look at the question. Which of the following would most greatly strengthen the argument made in the passage above? So we know that the argument in the passage is that in shortened work days are not a feature only of industrialized societies. Even primitive societies had short work days, and that the when industrialization progresses, the longer work days will eventually get shortened. So this is the argument. Now, option A, we have to find statement that supports this. Option A, in recent decades, the economy of the input has been markedly affected by the encroachment of modern civilization. So this input was the tribe which was considered primitive, where there are shortened work days. If this statement is true, what it means? It means that Mbuti is encroached by modern civilization, means Mbuti is also a modern society. So if Mbuti is a modern society and still they have shortened work days, means what? It is weakening the passage. Why it is weakening the passage? Because a modern society should have, sorry, in recent decades, the economy of the abyss has been markedly affected by the encroachment of modern civilization. So it is actually weakening the passage because Mbuti is considered to be a tribe, and if it is a modern tribe and having shorter work days, then this our argument is that modern societies have shorter work days and the primitive societies also have shorter work days. So these are the whole feature of all the whole purpose of quoting Mbuti becomes defeated in the case if Mbuti is a modern society, because our entire argument is standing on the uh, uh, premise that Mbuti is a primitive people. So if Mbuti is a modern society, the entire argument fades because modern societies are anyway expected to have shortened work days, and Mbuti is a modern society having shortened work days means the whole theory regarding primitive societies having shortened work days false. So this is why it weakens the argument, does not support the argument. Option B, the lifestyle of the Mbuti is similar to that of prehistoric humans. Yes. What is happening? Our premise itself is that the Mbuti is a primitive tribe. So that is why primitive tribes have shortened work days. That is the theory that we have proven. So if the Mbuti is similar to prehistoric humans, we are able to directly test this assumption. We have assumed that we cannot test the assumption, but Mbuti is a tribe that is similar to prehistoric humans. They are completely untouched by modern civilization, means they are following the same lifestyle of prehistoric humans and they have shortened work days, means that clearly supports our theory that primitive tribes or prehistoric humans also had a shortened work day. So this is a good argument that supports our theory. So this could be our answer. Keep it in your mind. Option C, the Mbuti have no words in their language to express the distinction between work activities and leisure activities. What is the meaning here? Here the passage is assuming that, or the author is assuming in this statement that the researchers have gone to Mbuti tribe and interviewed them regarding how much time they spend on working and how much their time they spend on leisure. So if they had interviewed them and the people of Mbuti, they don't have a word text to express the distinction between work and leisure, what does that mean? It means that they have given them the wrong feedback, as a result of which the conclusion made by the researchers is wrong. So if the conclusion made by the researchers is wrong, then it weakens the argument because our argument is based on Mbuti having shorter work days. So if the words are not there in the language and the researchers have gone and talked to them and they have given the wrong feedback because they are not able to express the distinction between work and leisure, then it means that the research findings are incorrect. If the research findings are incorrect, just like in option A, our entire argument becomes incorrect or weak. So as a result of which, this option weakens the argument, does not support the or strengthen the argument. Option D, the workday of a European peasant in medieval times averaged between 11 and 15 hours. Here, it means that in medieval times. It means in olden times, the workday of a European peasant was between 11 and 15 hours. Here, the issue is that the passage does not say that Europe is an industrialized society. We know from outside knowledge that Europe is an industrialized society, but when you're talking about critical reasoning, we need to have all the facts provided to us in the passage. Assumptions have no place here. Still, we don't know whether Europe is an industrialized society now or not. But let us assume that Europe is an industrialized society. If we assume that Europe is an industrialized society, and the medieval times their average working hours was 11 and 15 hours, and now it is shortened workday. So this is actually supporting the argument in the passage. So a probably good answer. Only weakness is that we don't know whether Europe was a industrialized society or not. So that weakness is there. But still, this is a good argument that strengthens the argument made in the passage that industrialized societies have short work days. So keep it in your mind. Option B, the members of the Shaklik tribe in Central Asia have an average workday of 10 to 12 hours. So what does that mean? With the statement does not say whether Shaklik is a primitive tribe or a modern tribe. If you assume that Shaklik is a primitive tribe and they have longer work days, means again the argument in the passage is weakened, because our argument in the passage is that even primitive tribes had shorter work days. So this weakens our argument. Now, if you assume that Shaklik is a modern tribe and it has work days up to 10 to 12 hours, means it again weakens the argument, because modern tribes are supposed to have shorter work days. So that is why in either case, whether Shaklik is a modern tribe or a primitive tribe, if they have work days of 10 to 12 hours, it means that our argument is not strengthened but weakened. So you have two good arguments that strengthen our argument, or two good statements that strengthen our argument. One is option B, the lifestyle of the embody similar to that of prehistoric humans. Option D, the workday of a European peasant in the olden times was between 11 and 15 hours. Now, which is the argument that most greatly strengthens the argument in the passage? So what is the main argument in the passage? So you have to see the main argument. The entire passage from here till here is talking or trying to establish that uh, shorter work days are not a feature only of industrialized societies. Even prehistoric societies also had shorter work days. And as a corollary or as a supplementary argument, it says that the extended workday of the and the short of the 1800s and the shorter workday of the today are products of different stages of industrialization. So option D is talking about this part. That is the in a Europe, which is an industrialized society. Previously, you had 11 to 15 hours. Now you have only small working days, assuming that Europe is an industrialized society, which is not given to us. Whereas this is directly supporting the main argument in the passage. Means if the lifestyle of the embody is similar to prehistoric human, means we are able to directly compare the work days of prehistoric humans through embody and establish that prehistoric humans also had a shorter work day. So this option B supports the main argument in the passage. Option D is supporting the supplementary argument in the passage, provided Europe is a industrial society. So that is not given in the option. So that is why there are two weaknesses here. One is that this Europe being an industrialized society is not given in the option. Second one, even if we assume so, it is supporting the supplementary argument, not the main argument. So here, most greatly strengthen the argument means the main argument is this, that shortened work days are also a feature of primitive tribes. So option B is that answer that very clearly supports greatly supports the main argument. So option D you can ignore. Option B should be the answer. So this is again a tricky question. You need certain time to analyze the question and understand, then go for the answer. But once you have answered the previous question by understanding the passage, this question should not pose any problems to you. You should be able to answer it in around 1 minute. Now go to the last question. So the last question is discussion or a debate between Gloria and Roger. So you have to read the passage carefully to understand Gloria's argument and Roger's counter argument. Gloria is essentially saying that some people are demanding tax concessions when they send their children to private schools. So we can understand from Gloria's argument that government is providing free education through government schools, and government is levying a tax from parents for providing free education. So for a service, government is levying a tax. But some parents choose to send their children to private schools. So they are demanding that they should be exempted from paying the tax because they are not availing the government service. And Gloria says that this is wrong. That means the Gloria says that this demand for tax concession or tax rebate for by parents who are sending children to private schools is incorrect. Why it says that she is giving an analogy or a comparison. She says that government is providing you local supply by levying taxes from you. Government is giving you local water supply, but some people choose to drink bottled water. But such people cannot demand tax concession on the basis of their choice. So you are given an option and you choose to go for something else, and then you demand a tax concession. That is not correct. Government is giving you a service for which you are supposed to pay tax. And if you are not availing the service, then that is your problem. You are supposed to pay tax anyway. That is the argument by Gloria. So Gloria is essentially in favor of a government taxing the people for the services they provide. And what Roger is saying that Gloria's argument is illogical because there is no option given to the parents. They have to send their children to school. It is mandatory. Government has made it mandatory by law. So there is no choice available to the parents. Government has made it mandatory for children to attend the school. So parents have no other option but to send children to school. This is a legal requirement. So it is unfair for the government to force some parents to pay for it twice. Why twice? They are when they send their children to private schools, they have to pay the tuition fees there, and government is also levying a tax. So two times they are paying. This is the argument made by the Roger. Now our question is to find a statement that Gloria can use to refute Roger's charge. What is refuting? Weakening or contradicting or directly attacking the Rogers argument. So if you want to refute Rogers' charge, you have to find a statement that weakens the crux of Roger's argument. What Roger is arguing? Roger is arguing that government is not giving you a choice. You have to mandatorily send your children to school. Then government is also asking you to pay taxes. This is incorrect. So what Gloria can say in support of her argument? Very clearly what Gloria can say. Gloria can easily say that government is only asking you to send children to school. Government is not making it mandatory that you should send children to private school. Government is giving you free education through government schools for which you are supposed to pay tax. But you are choosing to go to private schools by paying a higher tuition fee. But that is your choice. You are doing it your choice for which you are paying a tuition fees higher. That is your option, but that does not make you eligible for tax exemption. So this should be the counter argument that can be made by Gloria to refute the charges of mandatory attendance in schools. So this for any counter argument or weakening argument, you have to first understand what is the crux of the argument. Only then you can make an effective counter argument. All other statements will be superfluous. So once you understand that, you can directly come to the answer without wasting your time on various options which are confusing. So once you understand what is the very clear answer, the answer is option D, because it says that the law does not say that parents must send their children to private schools. Yes, the law only says that children should attend school, some kind of school, whether public or private. So it is up to you. The government is giving you a choice to send your children either to public school or private school. If you are sending to public school or government school, you are getting a free education and you have to pay taxes. So government is giving you a service for which taxes are there. If you are sending to private school, that is your choice. You have to pay tuition fees, but that does not make you eligible for exemption from taxes. This is the counter argument that can very clearly attack the crux of the argument by Roger. So this should be our answer. Now, let us, for the sake of discussion, we can go through the other options also. Option A, although drinking water is not required by law, it is necessary for all people. Therefore, my analogy is appropriate. See, the Roger is not attacking the analogy made by Gloria. So this analogy being appropriate or inappropriate is not at all a question here. Roger's argument is not about the comparison made by Gloria. It is about the government making it mandatory by law, and law just says that people have no option but to send their children to school. So for that, option A will not be a good counter argument. Option B, those who can afford the tuition fee at a high price private school can well bear the same tax burden as those whose children attend government schools. So this is actually supporting Gloria's argument, because if a person is able to send their children to a private school paying a higher tuition fee, he should be able to pay the taxes for government also. This is the argument. So this is supporting Gloria, but it is not attacking the crux of the argument made by Roger, which is about choice. So that is why this cannot be a good answer. That is going to refute the charge made by Roger. Option C, if tuition tax credits are granted, tax burden on parents who choose public school will rise to an intolerable level. What this is saying, it says that if all the people, parents who are sending their children to private schools, they are given tax concessions, what will happen? The parents who are sending their children to government schools, their tax burden will increase. Again, this is something that is supporting Gloria's argument. Even though it is supporting Gloria's argument, it is not directly refuting the argument made by Roger. The argument made by Roger is about parents being left with no choice but to send their children to school. So this option is not weakening that argument. As a result of which, this cannot be a counter argument that refuting the charge. So that is why the refuting the charge is very, very important. Refuting means weakening the charge made by Roger. So you can ignore it. Option E, both bottled water and private school are luxury items, and it is unfair that some citizens should be able to afford them while others. This is a completely irrelevant option. Whether bottled water and private schools are luxury items or not, maybe luxury items, and it is unfair that some citizens should be able to afford. What it means? Some citizens are able to afford and some citizens are not able to afford. It is making a social commentary regarding the social inequality existing in the society and all. So this is not going to refute Roger's counter argument in any way. So this is a completely superfluous or irrelevant argument. You can directly ignore it. So very clearly, option D will be the answer that directly refutes the charge made by Roger against Gloria's argument in favor of taxation by government for parents who send their children to school. I hope the idea is clear. All the questions are slightly complicated. I know I have purposefully chosen the complicated questions so that your reasoning skills can be elevated to the next level. And please go through the explanations very, very carefully to understand the techniques that we have employed in arriving at the answers. Once you become adept in this, what you can do, you can cut down the time that is spent on analyzing the options. Just by reading the question passage and the question properly, you can directly arrive at the crux of the issue, and then scanning the options, you can very easily find out the answer. This is the kind of technique that you should develop so that your time taken for answering the questions can be minimized and maximum number of correct answers can be arrived at within the given time. So I hope the video has been useful in your preparation. If you have liked the content, please like, share, and subscribe so that I get more reach, and that will motivate me to come out with further videos on topics like this. Thank you. Bye-bye.